Welcome, this is Matt Bautel, and this time we're going to learn about buttons and the model view control pattern. We have three apps that we're going to create in this unit. The first one is Hello Button, the second one, Tic-Tac-Toe, the third one, Lights Out. Each one involves some interaction where we're going to press buttons and we're going to see things change on our app. Very simple introduction. By the end of the unit, these are the things that you should be able to do. So first of all, you should be able to build simple UIs to specification. And the idea would be that I give you either a screenshot of an app or I give you a written description, and you should be able to lay out the app so that it looks like that. In doing this, you're going to learn about linear layouts, relative layouts, and table layouts. You should also be able to use various types of resource values, and these could be things like strings or colors or even views that you access from the layouts. You're going to be able to create the buttons themselves and learn how to respond to clicks. And finally, you should be able to explain pretty clearly what the model view controller pattern is and how Android supports it. So our first app is Hello Button. The whole idea here, if you observe what we have going on, is that I have a blank screen with a green background with just two things on it, right? So we have a button up at the top that says press me, and then we have a message that is centered in the middle, both horizontally and vertically. It's 18 points, and we have an 18-point margin at the top above the button. And every time we press that button, it's going to increment the counter in that message. So you've clicked it 0 times, 1 time, 2 times, etc. Right? This is a good example of something that can be done using a relative layout, and that's because relative layouts are very, very handy whenever you want to have a situation where things are either aligned with each other or positioned below each other relative to something else, or it's locked to some part of the screen like centered. Right? So we're going to do that layout now, and we're going to do it in an XML file. All right, so let's go ahead to Android Studio. All right, so I've launched Android Studio, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. So for the apps that we create in this unit, they're all just going to be the simplest one, which is what's called an empty activity. Click Next here, and we're going to choose a name. All right, so this one is just going to be Hello Button. The package name is usually some kind of reverse URL. So in my case, I'm at Rose-Hulman, so it's going to be edu.roseholman. And then I usually put my username and then the name of the app, and it will put in the name of the app for me every time. The location, you can decide where you want to put it. If you do change the folder, it will often drop the project name off of this, so you might have to go back in and type it in manually if you do that. Language, we're going to set to Kotlin, which is what we use in this course. And the minimum API level, I like to set at 25. It's a good trade-off between having lots of features and being able to run on lots of devices. And I'm going to keep all the other presets the way they are. So click Finish. And it's going to take in build, and I'm going to move past the build here because it will take some time. All right, so my app built, and it opened up a little bit here. And the main thing that we notice here is that we have main activity.kotlin. We'll come back to that in a minute. The one where we're going to start is in the resources folder. And we see we have several things here. And the main one that we're going to care about right now is this activity main.xml. Right? The reason for that is that back in the main activity, and I guess I'll start here. So this is Kotlin code, looks fairly similar to Java. It has packages, it has imports, and so on. We have classes. So main activity is a subclass of AppCompat activity, which is what we're going to use for backwards compatibility. And it has one function that we're explicitly overriding right here called onCreate. So onCreate is going to be called when the app is launched. And it makes a call into AppCompat activities onCreate. And then it does one thing so far, which is to set the view, to set the content of this view to be this file right here, r.layout.activityMain. And that corresponds directly with resources, layout, and then the activityMain.xml file. All right, so anything that we want to appear on the screen, we're going to put in here. All right, so I'm back here, and you'll notice that there are two tabs within my XML view, Design and Text. And we can choose to use whichever one we like. I use them each for various things. So right now, I like to start with text and spend a lot of my time there unless I'm creating new things. By default, it gives us what's called a constraint layout. Kind of a nice layout when you're using it with the design tab, but I find that it's a little bit more complex than we need for a lot of the apps that we have. So I'm going to change this. So I'm going to select this whole part here and change it to a relative layout. Right, and that should change the end tag, right? So this is a hierarchy. So this is kind of like a tree. So the relative layout is our root layout, and it has one child within it. You can see it's kind of nested within the opening tag that ends here and the closing tag, and that's this text view. In the text view, I'm going to get rid of these constraints because the constraints are specific to the constraint layout that I deleted. I'm going to have to put them back in here. But a couple things. So if I start typing any one of these properties that are in here, right? So we see we have several different properties. Then it will complete them, right? So I want it to be centered. So I'm going to start typing in the word center, and it doesn't matter if I type something that's in the middle of the word. Most everything, as you can see, starts with the Android namespace here. So I don't even bother typing Android. So I'm going to say here center in parent. So I want the text view centered inside this parent, which is the relative layout. Remember, text view is a child of the relative layout. So I go ahead and say that, and that's a Boolean that I'll set to true. And then wrap content means make the text view just big enough to hold its content, which is just the text that's here. So if I see what I have just the word hello world. I want to make it bigger, and I want to change a couple things about it, right? So the first thing is I want to set its size. So I'm going to start typing in the word size here, and I see that I get text size, and I wanted that to be 18. And you notice I have many different choices here of sizes. What I'm going to use is 18 dp, right? 18 dp. So if I go back to my slides here for a second, dp stands for density independent pixels, right? It's like pixels, but if I had a screen that was double resolution, it wouldn't make everything appear half as big, right? It's not a hard-coded pixel number. It's more like, in some sense, it's almost like a percentage of the screen, really, in some way. So it's independent of the density of the screen, which is really good. And we're going to use those always for layouts. Okay. Now you notice it's not percentage. So that was a very loose statement that I made here. It really is a number, but again, independent of the density. So I'm going to set that here. Now I can go one step further. So for layouts, I'm going to use DP. For text view, right, there's actually one step further. That SP is called scale independent pixels, and it's like DP only for fonts. If the user has a certain font size preference, like, you know, say like me, they need reading glasses and they want their text to appear large, then SP will respect that when it's laying it out. So and it's giving me a nice warning here that I should change that to SP. Okay, so I've changed my size there. I'm also going to change some colors. Okay, and let's see. I guess the text itself. So let's go ahead and start changing these, and we're going to see that we're going to need some resource values. So the text here is I'm going to start off and I'm going to say, like I said, you have clicked the button so many times. So you have clicked the button 0 times. Now you'll notice that it highlights it and it says that it's a hard-coded string. Best practice in Android is to move all your strings into this values folder over here, strings.xml, and you see it already has the name of the app in it in here. And we'll learn how to move things there and how to refer to them. So if you do start off by typing it here, it will often give you a choice to extract a string resource, to pull it back out to that XML file. So I'm going to do that. And then we can choose the name. It'll often use the same thing as kind of the default here. But I think this is really, it's a message in my middle, and it's the starting or the initial one. Okay, and I'm going to keep the value there the same, put it in the same place, and it's in the values folder in the strings.xml file. So the defaults are usually pretty good in these. Okay, and you'll notice that that's done two things. So it's created this string here. So I have in resources, this tag, I have a child, which is a string, and it has a property, which is the name of the string, and then its actual value, which is in here, and then I have a close tag. All right, go back here. Now I see that I refer to it using @string/ and then message start. And I can refer to anything that's in here, so I can see that it looks for it. If I wanted to put the name of the app here, I mean, that's where I would find it. All right, very good. So I put that there. Now, while we're talking about values, there are also ones here for colors, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click into colors for a second, and we see that it gives me some starting colors, right? So these are like the default colors of the app, and I can change these. If I were to run it, I'd see that these colors show up within the app. Rather than changing those, I'm going to go ahead and make a new color. So color name is going to be color, and I'm going to use it color background. And this one right here I want to be a green. So green, it's going to use RGB, red, green, blue. So I could start off with no red, G, so full green, which is going to be F, and then no blue, which is 0. And I would get this really kind of annoying green here. So I'm gonna actually balance this off a little bit. So I'm gonna say add a little bit of these guys, and then I'm gonna take down this one a little bit, maybe even a little bit more. How about B? Yeah, that looks okay. That's a little bit more muted green. So if you specify 2 numbers, then so red, 2 more for green, 2 more for blue, then these are hexadecimal, so that would give you the full range of 256, so 0 to 255. If you specify 1, it just gives you kind of like an interpolated value in the range from 0 to 15. All right, so that's okay for a lot of things. If I wanted fine-grained control, I'd take it. I can also add transparency on the end of this as a final value if I wanted. Good, but I'm not going to do that. So let's see. So I have a color. I'm also going to make a text color here. So I'm going to start typing color. Name is color text. And that's just going to be a nice white, which is going to be FFF. All right, and that's what I'm going to use. There are some that are built in, so I probably didn't need to do that, but I like to have my colors in here. All right, so going back here, so I'm going to change the colors of things. So I'm going to change the color of the whole background. If I want to change this whole thing from white to something else, then it's the layout that has the color that I want to change. And I change it by changing the background attribute. So background, and you notice that it even comes up with colors here. So I'm going to change it to the background color, and you see it gives a little preview of green. And then over here I can change the color for this guy. So this is going to be text color, and that's going to be the one that I set up as the text color. So now I should have green and white. Very good. So that looks good. Let's see, I want to grab my button on there, and that'll be pretty much my last thing here. So if I want to make a button, I could just start typing in button here, or I could drag one in. I'm actually going to just show you how this works. So for button, I can drag it in here, and you can see how it kind of highlights its kind of and kind of place it in here. And we will sometimes get some visual feedback on things. I'm not getting much right now. And as a matter of fact, I just kind of threw it up in the corner. So let's fix that with some different properties. All right, so my button, so my text is going to be press me, and I want to extract that out as a string resource. So I only have one button, so I'm just going to call it button text. Not a very creative name, but it works. The width and the height, I'm going to wrap. Again, they could be made different. If I wanted to make a wide width, I could say that that matches the parent. If I go over here, we'd see that the button takes up the full width. In fact, I might actually keep that for a second. We'll do something a little bit different with that. And then I want to add a margin. I wanted 18 dp on the top. So layout margin. I could specify just the top. If I specify the whole margin, it will put margin around the whole thing. Or I could do just horizontal or just vertical. I'm going to try something here. So I'm going to do 18. Now this isn't text, so I'm just going to say 18 dp. And go back over, and we see that it actually puts 18 pixels around kind of the whole thing. All right, and this is again a little bit different than what I showed you in the other one, but I kind of like that it's a bit bigger here. So I'm going to keep it. And very good. So that looks good. My layout looks exactly the way that I want it to. If I were to run my app right now, I would get this very thing, and it wouldn't respond to any clicks whatsoever. That's going to come in the next step, right? But what we've done is we've just created the view for our app, right? So what do we actually see on the screen without any sort of logic? Come back next time, and we'll build the controller and the model for this app. Bye.